So there's been a lot of concern raised about recently passed labor regulations in China that have perhaps increased the costs of business for employers. And there's relatively little evidence that's been presented on actually what's happened as a consequence of the passage of these laws. So for instance, China passed a labor contract law in 2008, which said that all employers had to provide formal labor contracts for their workers. After 2 fixed-term contracts, workers had to be given open-ended contracts. And if they wanted to fire workers, the amount of severance payments were increased substantially. In addition, enforcement of previous laws, for instance, that you should provide workers a basic package of social insurance benefits, including, most importantly, pension benefits, health insurance benefits, unemployment insurance benefits. These were also enforced much more strictly than before, increasing the penalties if you don't comply. And so we've been doing some research which has tried to look at what has actually happened since the passage of these regulations. And some other scholars have also started to look at the implementation of these various laws and regulations. On the one hand, providing more benefits to workers obviously is a good thing for workers and a good thing for the stability of their employment and their ability to deal with various uncertainties in their work careers or in their lives in general in terms of having basic types of insurance coverage. On the other hand, of course, if there aren't good jobs available and employers have to fire lots of people because the costs of labor are so high, then that can obviously be a big negative for many potential workers. We found that the labor law, we've done a study of it, has been implemented pretty effectively in China. We surveyed workers in a number of large cities and found that most workers feel that the labor law has been enforced and implemented. And for the most part, they're aware of the key provisions of the law and what they need to do to seek a better outcome if the employers are not following the law. And so I think there has been a good faith, effort to implement the law. Now, we also did some interviews of firm managers. We worked with the People's Bank of China and did a survey of about 2,000 manufacturing enterprises a couple of years after the law had been implemented, and found that firm managers felt that the law had definitely increased their labor costs and that it had been pretty strictly enforced. So whether you ask workers or firms, the law is being implemented. We did some analysis which suggested that there had been a negative effect on employment, meaning that manufacturing firms reporting very strict enforcement of law also saw less employment growth over the period kind of just after, if you compare the before and after kind of period of the law's implementation. But at the same time, because China is growing so fast and there's so much robust labor demand in the economy, and not just manufacturing, but in services and other sectors, overall, unemployment has not really shot up. In fact, unemployment is still at a very low level in China. Wages continue to grow. So there's something about the fact that the demand is so strong for labor in China that it seems to be able to soak up employment. So we don't have a big kind of unemployment problem because of excessive labor regulation, which I think was a concern of many people. One thing we have found is that even when employers provide labor contracts to their workers, which provide a certain set of legal kind of rights and guarantees, in many cases they are not providing all of the social insurance benefits that they're supposed to. And when we did interviews with firm managers, we found that in many cases, because the percentage of the wage that workers have to contribute, usually 10% or so, and more importantly that employers have to contribute, which can be something like 30% of the wage as a contribution to provide this package of social insurance coverage. That's viewed as really costly to both employer and employee, and so oftentimes if the employer offers the package and the employee refuses voluntarily in exchange for a slightly higher wage, then both sides will feel better off.